What up, Charlie? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. You and I just met 2 minutes ago. Obviously, I knew of you. I think you knew of me, but
Yep.
we were probably in UFC at the same time. But you nailed it when you said we're kind of creating small talk, and you basically just said you're doing what I'm doing, and that's the
Hmm.
truth. It's like post fighting that provided a platform to do stuff post fighting, but certainly didn't like write home the rest of your life. So it's a period of
Well,
figuring it
fighting
out.
didn't write home the rest of your life, right? Uh,
Correct.
you
Yeah,
don't have millions, right? You're not.
that
You're
is
not. Okay.
That is correct. I have a thousand or two. No, I mean I'm comfortable. But you know what? When I left teaching, so I went from Spanish teaching to fighting. My From the beginning, I thought if I can make as much fighting as I was teaching, then I made the right choice, and I was able to
Okay.
do that. So I don't think I really expected millions, like from the beginning, and so
Right.
it kind of just played the course that I expected it to play.
What was that course? What did that course look like? So you said you went from teaching to fighting. Like, um, so you weren't like your whole life. You weren't like, yo, I'm going to be a UFC fighter.
Not at all. It's funny. I remember it's probably my junior, senior. So I was a fifth year. I wrestled in college and took that fifth year. And I remember distinctly, I don't know, fourth, fifth year. You remember when Vitor fought Randy Couture,
Mm-hmm.
where he cut him in the eyelid? I
Mm-hmm.
distinctly remember that standing
I was
in
at that
my,
fight.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, it was like my butt. I wrestled. So, we were naturally into fighting. And I remember standing in our living room at my house. We were watching pay per view, and not even an inkling of maybe I'll do that in the future. I was like the least fighter guy on our wrestling team. I hated fights; it scared the crap out of me. And then, like post wrestling, and then getting into normal life, and then getting real bored with normal life, and then figuring what the heck am I going to do now? Then it popped up as an option because I saw Frankie Edgar signed to the UFC, and I was like, oh man, we wrestle in the same division. If he's doing that, maybe I could do that. Tim Bosch was another guy from my college, Mike Cisnelovich. So it like went from this crazy thing to, oh shit, maybe I'll do that.
That's interesting. So you weren't like this lifetime martial artist,
Not in the least bit. I was a lifetime wrestler, which
wrestler.
like is a huge part. And it's so much. So no, I was not getting in street fights. I was not practicing martial arts. I was running from fights. I hated it. I was afraid of getting in trouble, getting hurt, accidentally hurting or killing someone else. You hear these accidents. But wrestling just instilled this grind and mindset and this like just love of or being of discipline and hard work and being scared to death but wanting to go anyway, and it just fell in line with fighting.
So what was like other than your, by the way, the league that Sesnalevich fought in, like Henzo versus Milicic,
Yeah.
what was that called? I was having a discussion about it the other day, and I forgot about it. Now when you said Sesnalevich, it popped back in my mind. Do you remember that?
What was it? I do remember. Now I forget now the yes because it's not PFL.
No,
uh
the teams.
yeah, I know what you're talking about, but the
God
name
damn it, the
escaped me
pit
because
bulls.
I almost fought in it two or three times, but
Okay,
never ended up happening.
all
It'll
right.
it'll come to me.
We'll remember. Yeah. So anyway, when was it that you were like, yo, I'm gonna fight?
So I taught Spanish, junior and senior high Spanish for 3 years, and this was '04 to '07. And
Okay.
probably about '05 and a quarter, right? I started to get really bored. So about a year and a quarter, year and a half into my teaching career, I started to get really bored. Coming back from school after Christmas break, New Year's, it was like, like just a very depressing time. And I started thinking, okay, I'm not happy, but I have nothing to do. What else am I going to do? And then randomly, probably around that year and a half, 2 year mark, maybe is when Frankie signed. My guess is he signed and fought Tyson Griffin in '05, '06, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that and a light bulb went off. And I was probably in my second year of teaching. I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And it was just a zero question, like, boom, that's it. That's my plan. And I talked it over with my family, mainly my mom and dad. And I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I don't think
How'd they take that?
yeah, I don't think they knew what it was.
Right.
They didn't know what it was, and or they thought I was like a pipe dream, like, oh, he might actually, yeah, right, he's not going to do that. And
Right.
then they were like, sure. And my mom said, just promise me you'll get your master's degree in the interim. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, I cannot believe they're not putting up a fight with this. And like I said, I don't think they knew what it was. And I left. I
Are
left
your
and moved.
parents educated?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
educated. Like all my siblings are super smart. We get good grades and we follow the line and all this stuff. And then I just,
God, we're more similar than you think because yeah, I mean, my mom was a teacher, my dad's a principal.
yeah.
So like, you're gonna fight? What?
Oh,
No.
yeah. I mean, I was a teacher. My brother's a teacher. My sister's a teacher. My other brother's a lawyer. My mom's a school nurse. And it just, I really think it was just they didn't really know what it was. And this is during the time when Pride, I'm on the East Coast. So it's like when Pride was on TV after school, I would come home from school, I was still living at home, fresh out of college. I would sit on my single bed and I would just watch Pride. And I would like not fantasize about fighting, but I was just so into it. And then I saw Frankie do it. And I was like, oh man, maybe I'll do that. And just, I didn't even know what jujitsu was. I remember seeing my first jujitsu video. They're on their back with like their legs sticking up. And I'm like, what the heck is this? This stuff's stupid. Like,
You're
what
like
is
every
this?
other person. Get off your back, pussy.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah. And it was so weird. And then I
right.
dove into it. People ask how you get started or how you do something. I just did it. I just looked up a gym and went, and I sucked for more, but I had wrestling, and it just little by little came together, and I would make these moves along the way. I'm from PA, Pennsylvania, and at that time it was not sanctioned in PA, and so there was no actual fights, and nobody really knew of it. And Jersey was the closest thing where it was happening, and so I got a grad assistantship in Eastern PA, did that for about a year and a half, and then just devoted myself full time to fighting, and never.
Did you quit
looked back
teaching?
at all. I did, yeah.
What year did
So
you quit teaching?
I taught 04 to 07.
Okay.
So the transition was like 07, 09.
And when did you fight?
And
When was your first fight?
amateur winter of 2006, professional summer of 2007. So
you had some overlap.
a little bit, yeah. So I had amateur fights while I was teaching. So I would come to school on Monday, and it was fun because I taught junior and senior high. So the kids would YouTube it or something, and it was fun. And I was also on a reality show called Pros versus Joes. It was on Spike TV.
I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
And the kids would watch that, and they were like, "Well, senor, you swore," because I said like shit or damn or something like that. So it was pretty cool because there was that overlap. And then also throughout my career, I would have kids who are now young men and women, 30-year-old men and women, who would reach out and be like, "Oh, senor, blah, blah, blah." So it was cool connection.
How old are you now, Charlie?
I'm 40.
Okay, so yeah, we're the same age. I'm 41. Okay.
Yeah. So there was some overlap. And then my first pro fight was 07 July in Jersey, but then I got hooked. I didn't get hooked up. I entered it and was entered into a tournament in Jersey called Ring of Combat.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning like 14 grand on my fourth fight. And this is
shit.
back. Yeah, this is back. I think it was the fall of 08. So
God, that was better than a UFC contract.
yeah, it was like better than a lot of. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a sweet sport, and then I was like, oh shit, maybe not. So I actually made more that night than I did my last UFC fight. So
Yeah, you did.
You're right. Yeah. So
What was the journey to the UFC like?
it was so those first several fights, first 4 or 5 fights were in Jersey, and then I fought John Howard in the finals. No, not the finals. In a title fight for the Ring of Combat. He was later in the UFC. He beat me that fight, and I think that made me 6-1. He got signed to the UFC that next fight, and then at the same time, fighting got sanctioned in Pennsylvania. So the way kind of a brief synopsis. I'm from central western Pennsylvania. Atlantic City, where these fights were happening, is a good 5-hour trip. So I might sell 100 tickets, but they got to travel 5 hours. So it was a pain in the butt to get people to my fights. When it opened up in PA,
let's explain that to people, because one of the ways that young fighters make money, it's not just your purse, right? The promoter has you promote the fight to sell tickets to all your friends, and then you get a cut of those tickets, which I think is fucking lame. But
so to add to what you said, again, I think you and I are like the same level of experience / post, but there's even, I know for a fact, there's even promotions that deduct. So if I say, Elliot,
that's what they're doing now.
Yeah. Elliot, you're going to fight, how many tickets? You say 50, and then you sell 30. Well, then I deduct the cost of whatever your commission was of those 20 tickets. So if you fight for $1,000 and shit the bed with selling tickets, you could actually make out negative.
Yeah.
which is you're right. It's mind blowing. It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
I can remember one time a promoter got like, it was my first, I had gotten cut by the UFC and I was fighting back. And I didn't even care about selling tickets. I didn't give a fuck about selling tickets, right? Because I didn't care about like this one paycheck. I needed to fight and win and move on and get back. So he was like, "What the fuck, Elliot?" And I was like, "What the fuck, what, man?" He was like, "You didn't sell any tickets." I was like, "I know, I didn't try. It's not my job."
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you mean it's not your job?" I was like, "You're a promoter. I'm a fighter. You promote, I fight. Now look, you cannot book me again. Like that's what you know,
Yeah.
like Dana White can't get mad. Like he can get mad that it doesn't sell a pay-per-view, and then he can make different choices about who's going to headline his pay-per-view. But that's, that's his fucking problem.
Yeah.
It might turn into the fighter's problem, but like it's not I'm looking to fight one time for you, man.
Yeah.
One time, get one more fight somewhere else. And that's what happened for me. But like, it's not my job to sell fucking tickets.
Yeah.
And this is why I hate that model.
It is a terrible model for a lot of reasons. But when it got sanctioned in PA, it became so much easier because now I could sell. I think the most I sold was about 420 tickets. And
you're getting like $25 a pop, right?
Yeah, or I think, I don't even know, maybe 40%, or it was a decent amount. So I was making more fighting in like my backyard in Podunk, PA, than I was title fights for, these different organizations. But the problem with that is, you were saying, I'm trying to fight, and when you have like 20 grand of green dollar bills on your kitchen table and you're trying to like organize it and keep it here and meet people here and meet people there, and but it's overwhelming and terrible. And I was lucky that I had my brother and my dad and my family helping me out, but it's a shit show. And you'd have fights canceled the day of and have to give the money back and like balance all that shit out. And it's like, come on, I'm trying to be a professional athlete, and now I got to worry about this.
Yeah, people don't get. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's as bad anymore. But I can remember, bro. I went down to the DR, for a fight, and this was the last fight before I got back in the UFC. It was 15 grand, 15 to show, 15 to win, which was off the hook, right? Nice paycheck outside, especially. I mean, at that time, that was decent for in the UFC. We get down there, there's no doctor at ringside. I mean, like, it's a shit show of an event. And I'm like the first round went 8 minutes of this fight.
Accidentally,
because there's no timekeeper, and then the dude gets knocked out and the ref is just standing there looking at the dude, and no doctors come in, no nothing. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm getting this to the ground right away and winning, no fucking around. I'm not getting stitches down here, nothing. So I do. And then the checks bounce.
Oh my gosh.
30 grand a week before Christmas.
Oh my gosh. And that never,
no, nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing.
The worst I was screwed was like $2,200 for a sponsor.
Yeah.
Which I was given by my management. And then they said, we never got it. We need the money back. I was like, what is this shit?
Yeah, that's not my problem. Again, that's not my problem. That's your problem. You go get that fucking money.
Correct.
So,
although I did not have the confidence.
At the time, you're just, exactly. You don't know how to say that. You think your manager's everything. And this is part of, I don't know, I think probably what we're going to get into here is as you go through your career, you get in the UFC, what happens, like up and down. Go ahead.
Yeah. It was, I don't know your exact fighting career, but I know that I knew you like a name that I would surmise someone knew me. Like we were decent. We had some wins and some losses along the way. I got there. I won my first fight, which was basically, I got signed to beat a guy, basically. So you know how like they pick who they want to win and who they don't, but like under the scenes, we want this guy, we don't want that guy. But basically we were told, you got to win this fight or you're gone. And so I got signed and I won that fight. And then I fought Hendricks the next fight and I lost that fight. And then I think I won like 2 and maybe lost 1. I had 11 total fights. I think maybe I was 4-2 or something like that. And then I lost 2 in a row, got released. And then I fought at the lower levels and won 4 in a row, and then got back to the UFC and lost 3 in a row and got fired right away. But during that first stint, I beat Rick Story, which was like, made my career, and it really helped me in forming a life post fighting because I have that moment. But it was in Pittsburgh, and this was, he was supposed to fight Marcourt, whoever
Oh,
won that fight.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, because so Nate was my training partner.
All right.
So we were together. That was the whole testosterone thing.
Yeah. And so I like lucked into that one. I say luck. This is like a hard principle that I teach or talk about when I talk. I got lucky, but if it weren't for how I prepared, that luck would have meant shit. It's like that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I went there to fight TJ Grant. TJ Grant got mono, didn't fly to Pittsburgh. Marcourt gets popped for testosterone. And like the behind the scenes of that week was insane. The stuff that I would be receiving minute by minute, basically. And then I get to the weigh-ins, stand there with my freaking nothing. Nobody even knew like I was there. And then boom, Charlie, weigh in, you're up, you're in. I was like, what? And it was insane.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like super high point one, right?
That was the main event, wasn't it?
Co-main event. It was Barry and Czech fought the main event.
Okay.
Crazy fight they had.
Yeah.
And then post that fight, I fight Rumble. And he kicked me in the face and TKO'd me. And then I lost, I think maybe the next fight or one loss. Anyway, so I was out, back in, and then out again. And then to allude to what you said earlier about the kind of getting back, I had 4 good fights prior to getting re-signed. Fair pay. I felt good about it. It was like 10 grand, 8 grand, 7 grand, against guys that I, was doing really well against and building my way up. And then I backed the UFC and shit the bed, 0-3, and boom, I'm done. And then after that, I was like, do I want to keep fighting or not? And literally the offers were 1,000 and 1,000. And I was like, I had 11 fights in the UFC. If this is the market, then I'm done because it's terrible. And so I sat on that for, I don't know, 6 months to a year until I really like, all right, I'm going to start digging into post-fighting. If a fight comes up, it comes up. Otherwise, I'm devoted, full time to figuring out my future.
What was that full time figuring out your future?
Yeah. So step one, it was, okay, sitting, waiting. And then it was, all right, what can I do now? Like right now, I'm sitting at my house. I have nowhere to go, nothing to do. Nobody's calling me. And an idea had been planning to write a book because people constantly ask questions. I'm sure they ask you questions. Anything from how much money, does it hurt? What's it like? What's Dana White like? What are the other guys like? Are you afraid? Are you scared? And so I just started writing a book. No idea how to write a book. I just literally started typing. Little by little by little, that got put together, and I self-published it on Amazon with the help of very kind people in my circle. And then I started speaking because, like you, I'm sure, people are kind of fascinated by fighting. You have this UFC tag, so I was able to call a school.
We get instant street cred.
Yeah, correct. Valid street cred, right? Like legitimate valid.
Yeah, it's earned. It's not given.
Yeah. And so
that's half my problem with most of the people is I'm like, you have no street cred, bro.
Yeah.
Why in the fucking world should I listen to you? What have you done that has earned my time?
Yeah. And it's
not much.
It's very hard and it sucks and it's, hurts physically, emotionally, all of it. But I, like through writing a book, learned that, okay, there's a profession that's called speaking, and a lot of speakers write books. I also have this backstory. So that slowly started to morph into, oh, I'm a speaker and author. And then I added a podcast. Now it's like, oh, I'm a speaker, author, and podcast. And little by little by little, that's building into, I run a business that's based around the Spaniard. The Spaniard no longer just being me, but being an identity or a brand or a thing that's tangible that I can build, me being Charlie, can build into something that teaches all of these lessons that we learn through fighting. And that, that's to this day. So that's like starting 2015 and it's evolving up to today. But that's where the process started. It's like you and I have a nugget of a thing that 99.9% of the world doesn't have. That's being a professional fighter, especially in the UFC. So then just leveraging that for these different opportunities.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You have to do something like it's a hard thing post sport career, and I've been talking to a lot of ex NFL players and a lot of obviously a lot of ex fighters where like, because you quote unquote make it, right? Like you have accomplished your dream of making it and being in the big leagues, and then it doesn't work out.
Yeah. So
How
again,
do
I
you
mean,
how did you deal with that disappointment and quote unquote failure?
well, it took a long time, and one of the things like a black and white that I'll present, and I'm sure you can relate to it. You know, I would get paid for various things. I remember the Topps cards. I
Mhm.
remember getting a check for $1,500 for signing like a couple
Yep.
hundred cards.
Yep.
And then there's these sports bars that would easily pay $1,000 for me to go watch a UFC fight and get as much free food as I wanted. Like that stopped happening. Nobody
Sure.
cared. So
Right.
if I, first of all, you feel like a douche calling someone and saying, "Hi, I'm a former fighter," and like it doesn't work anymore. Like they're not asking for you, and you don't call, so it stops, and it's like I didn't really have a problem with like value or self esteem. I just didn't because I think I had a foundation and family and friends and stuff where I never really bought into it, but it still hurt emotionally to kind of just be forgotten. Also, a huge component to business versus fighting. In fighting, we shoot for 100% success. Right? Like, that's our goal. If you're 500, you're an average fighter, and that's not getting you to the UFC. Wrestling's the same way. In business, it's like almost, well, it's more than inverse because if you cold call and cold email and like a 2% warm response rate for direct email marketing is a good warm, and that's not a gig.
You
That's
open
a,
you look at your click through rate on
yeah,
Mailchimp or wherever the
yeah.
fuck you host your email, and you're like, yo, 10% clicked, and you're like, God damn, that's good.
That's a win. And that equals $0 bills because
Right.
those have to lead to phone calls, which then lead to business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the hardest thing for me to get used to is okay, I come from a sport wrestling where I'm winning a state title. That's it. I want a state title. I want All American medal. So this is the upper echelon. And then fighting's the same way. And then business is like 100% the
So
inverse.
I like so what helps me with that, the way I like to explain it is not in the result of the match, but I like to look at it as what's your percent success on moves you try.
Yeah.
That is very low in fighting,
Yeah, true.
right? Like if
Yeah,
you're
that's
gonna
a
roll
good
with
analogy.
somebody, we're gonna shake hands and we're gonna see who taps. I'm only like, man, if I hit 25%, I am the world champion. Because,
That's a really good analogy and very
yeah,
true.
it's because
So that
you're
was
terribly unsuccessful
yeah.
per
And
move.
it took a while for me to realize that, but then also to not like cry about it and be all sensitive about it. Like I used to get pissed off at people if they didn't respond to an email or a phone call. And now
Okay,
I
why don't you
get
like
it.
my post?
Yeah, you son of a but now I whatever, it is what it
Sure.
is. You echoed what I said earlier when I said I didn't have the confidence at that time to really voice my opinion, dealing with the management and the paying and everything. That confidence comes with experience, and at 40, I'm much more confident than I was at 30, having all that experience, doing all this freaking business, blah blah blah. That's so hard and like soul devouring. Now it's like, all right, I understand what I am, what I have, the value. If you don't like it, okay, I'm going to the next person.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that shift helps a lot.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I like to say fighting helped me get good at life because I just failed so much at fighting that you're like, oh, fuck it. At least, no hospital trip, right?
Yeah, and I got excuse me, I got
Yeah.
knocked out once out cold on TV, and it's so embarrassing. It's so
So
terrible,
embarrassed.
and
Oh.
it's the worst. And when I would did a school, speak in schools a lot, sharing my story and lessons with
Mm-hmm.
kids about resilience and perseverance. And I had a girl ask me the best thing I took from fighting. I was like, be honest, it was getting knocked out because I have that image that I show on a PowerPoint. It's a really stinking powerful image, and it shows those kids a real tangible example of getting knocked down and getting back up. So as much as all that stuff sucked, post fighting, it gives such a tool bag of stories, pictures, relationships, adventures, like all this stuff to incorporate into what you're doing and makes you like a more valuable conversationalist and person to
Yeah.
communicate with.
Yeah. Because it's such people can't understand the moment that it's that of like walking to a fucking cage. Everyone thinks they'll do it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, man, I'd fight Mike Tyson back in Mike Tyson's heyday for $1 million. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, it's really
You wouldn't.
lonely.
You'd shit your pants. You would shit your
Yeah.
pants in the back. You would not walk.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure. If Mike Tyson just came up to you and fought and punched you, then okay, you'd fight back because there's no time to get nervous.
Yeah.
But if you
But
had to like do a camp and then go wait for 4 hours in an arena where you were watching other people get knocked out,
it's
you
so
know,
terrible. When people ask if I miss fighting, I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I at this point I don't even know what to say. I'm older, so I don't. I mean, 99% never fighting again. But like, it's really cool, but it also really sucks. And as I get older, and like, I just take joy out of seeing my kids play. I'm like, I don't know if I want that in my life. I don't want that in
you'd
my
have to
life.
pay me so much. You'd
Yeah,
have to 50 million, 20
yeah,
million, maybe.
it's so like on the record, 100,000, 500,000 for me, in case anyone hears this. But it becomes, I don't know, just not worth it.
But look,
Everything.
100,000, 500,000 is a lot of money. I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money. What I'm saying is a one-off of 500,000. It's not going to fuck with my life that much. Look, I might go buy a new car,
Correct.
right? And take a nice vacation, and like you pay the house down a little bit, but it doesn't really fuck with your
Yeah,
life that much. You're still going to wake up and do the same
you're
shit.
right.
So for me to fight again, I need millions because I need
Yeah,
to be free at the end of it. Because most likely, I don't know about you, and maybe we'll talk about it here in a sec, but I can't get hit in the head. Like if I get hit in the head, I can get bad concussions. And when I
yeah,
get bad concussions, it's months of like crying in the room behind me because I'm like emotionally can't control myself from all the concussions I've had. So,
yeah,
you know, a
yeah.
new
That's
car
a
ain't fucking worth that for me. It's just not. Like you'd
that,
have to change my kid's life forever.
yeah. That's a really good point, and you just raised my bar
All right,
because
fuck yeah, good.
when you think about it, 100 grand sounds like 100 grand. Well, I'd say 500 grand. Sounds like 500 grand, but then you're paying 30 or more% of that in taxes, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
paying for training, and then you're paying for whatever. So let's say it's down to 300 grand at least. I'm gonna buy a car. Okay, that's 50 grand. Okay, that's 250. I'm gonna pay off my house. Okay, I'll put 100 grand toward that. Now you're left with 100 grand, and it's like, oh shit,
You got a
it's
hundred
not.
grand,
Yeah,
and then that doesn't do shit for your life,
yeah,
unless like it doesn't do shit for your life. You take nothing. So
yeah.
because people get all wrapped up around this thing of money, I think, and like I guess this is my thing is like I mean money doesn't fucking do it.
It
We
doesn't
think it
unless
does unless you don't have any.
yeah, and I don't even think it's unless uh, it's life changing
Mm-hmm.
because if it's life changing but it puts me out of my kids' lives for the next 30 years, then that's not worth like I'd rather be in my kids' lives for 30 years.
I
So
was
it's
just I was talking about this with a friend who we have a buddy who had to travel every week to Europe. Every week to Europe for like 7 years. He had to travel every week to Europe. And at the end of it, like it just paid out. And it
that's
paid out 30 million. But 7 years and not with your kids really.
yeah,
A long time.
very long time, a lot of yeah, just a lot of
I don't
time
know.
period.
Like I think about that, like 7 years of like not seeing my two kids for 5 days every week.
Yeah, and case in point, my oldest brother's 47. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor 2 years ago.
I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, I appreciate that. And it's like, it just makes us
Mm-hmm.
totally reevaluate everything. So do I miss fighting? Short answer, no. Why? Because I very much enjoy what I'm doing now, and there's no risk like compared to what I was doing, and the return is so much more. Because a fight where you make 100 grand, which I've never made 100 grand, but if you
For
make
a
a hundred
fight.
grand,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's like a lot of time and prep and work and physical and mental damage. And it, when you spell it out, it becomes a lot less enviable and desirable. That being said,
Usman just said it, right? When he was like, who are you gonna fight next? He's like, man, I don't really know. I gotta weigh if this is worth it.
yeah,
Because what am I gonna do? I'm gonna miss my daughter's whole life, but tell her I have 20 million. And
yeah,
when I show her the 20 million in the bank account, she's gonna be like, yeah, but you weren't there.
yeah, and that's another thing. Like, you have small kids, like they don't care. My kids don't give a shit. They care about the here and now. Like, let's play. Can you
Mm-hmm.
throw the football? etc.
Mm-hmm.
If we take them to, I just told you I went to Disney. If we take them to Disney, you know what my son said? It's like the pool was their favorite part. The pool not even at Disney and our resort, and then like a little
Right.
Slinky Dog roller coaster was his favorite roller coaster that we have 10 minutes away at essentially at Hershey Park. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they don't really care about that. It's what I care about, think I care about, and what I think they care about.
Well, because the pool's their favorite part because you get in the pool with
Yeah,
them and
play.
you
Yeah,
spend time and you wrestle and you play and all this and that and da 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 da. Because it's all with you. That's
and
what they really care about. And I believe, and I think you're doing it with your business, that's all anybody really cares about is how you connect to another human being.
yeah, and I was just gonna. Well, I was in my mind thinking about that whenever I was saying how what I'm doing now I enjoy very much. It really is that there's a transition that slowly went from it being about me to it not being about me, to using me for it to be about them. And honestly, like especially kids, because like I said, I speak in a lot of schools. When you see the power that I give them by completely divulging my insecurities and my losses,
Mhm.
like the connection, the emotional connection that happens during that is worth $1 zillion. Like it's so freaking powerful and fulfilling for me to have gotten my ass kicked and to all this ups and downs and to share it with kids and then have them feel so much safer and more secure and hopeful because of that. It's
How did
just
you
like,
make this switch? Because it's such a switch. Because fighting and the chase of a professional sports goal is such a selfish thing, right? You have to be all in on you.
mhm.
Like you must. How are you able to
It,
turn that?
yeah,
What
that
happened?
that that was that was probably okay. So I mentioned the inverse relationship of winning and losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fighting in business, but that right there, selfish and selfless, the I versus the them. Like you hear the
Mm-hmm.
term, "How can I be of value?" And it's cliched, and I think it's beaten into the ground, and it's a cheesy business thing that's said. But the truth is, nobody's coming to Miami Mike's for Charlie to sign a piece of paper. They're just not coming. Nobody is coming. So I have to call them. I have to call the schools. I have to call the businesses, et cetera. And then hopefully I get to a point where it's incoming again because whatever, I build enough credibility, et cetera. But that switching from me to them, I think you can't get there without getting, like you got to get through it to get
Did
there.
you have something in your life though? Because I know I had something in my life. Like I went through something, and at the end of that, I was like, "Oh fuck, Elliot."
No,
Did you have a time, or was it just
no,
kind of
it was just post. This is what happened. It was post fighting and then it was like, okay, I want to speak. I want to speak. I want to be a speaker. So it was like, I'm Charlie. I'm a former UFC fighter. And then it was like, I want to speak. And then it was like birds chirping. It didn't care. Nobody cared because I wasn't either putting them first or adding what it can do for you. And then I just learned from reading business books and studying business and talking to people that no, you have to incorporate them. Like that's it. It's a value. They're buying value. Because I was thinking, but The Rock doesn't say that. So I'm comparing me to The Rock. And then my close business smart friends would say, you're not The Rock. So you're not Joe Rogan, Charlie. So
I'm going to
people,
start a podcast. So I'm going to talk to my homies.
yeah, I'm going to message Joe Rogan and say, hey, I should be on your show. Like that.
Right.
I mean, that's literally the train of thought.
You did that, right?
Yeah. 100
I
million
did too.
percent.
Yeah. So did I.
100 million percent.
Yeah.
And people now, like on a much smaller scale, will do that for me. And in my head, I'm like, oh, that was me. I'm not thinking about them at all. I was thinking about me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard as a professional fighter when the limelight is on you all the time to then all of a sudden switch and it not be about you. And you have to be okay with that and really understand it's about them. But another thing that helped me tremendously along the way is getting married and step one, getting married. Just because I don't like to do the dishes, I now have a partner who likes the dishes to be done. So that's less about
But
me and
Charlie,
more.
a UFC fighter, you don't have to do the dishes.
Yeah, right. I remember one of my favorite comments. I'm friends with Frank Yeager. He's been in my
Okay.
life for a long time. And one of my favorite lines from our interview like 4 or 5 years ago is he said, I won a world championship on Saturday and on Monday I was changing diapers. So like maybe if you're super rich and you hire someone and they do it for you, but
Your wife
I,
does not care. Your
no,
wife
no,
does
but
not care.
she like anti-cares,
Yeah.
like the opposite of
Mm-hmm.
caring.
My wife sits up right now. She's downstairs going, "What the fuck is he doing talking to somebody up there?" Like
Are you,
what? Why?
honey, are you getting paid for this? No. All
No.
right. Well, you're not doing it. Well, no, but I am doing it.
But
But
babe,
and
I'm
then
working. No, you're not.
yeah. But then, but collectively,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
works into building what I'm building, right?
Right.
But I get up a lot earlier than I used to. I go to bed a lot earlier. I utilize my time a lot better. So that process, having kids, then makes me like care about someone else more than I care about myself, and then that kind of reflects in business. So it was a natural transition, but the from me to them transition, it was just a lot of humility up front, not securing gigs, having nobody call, being out of the limelight, and then people kindly but honestly telling me, dude, you're not the Rock, so stop thinking that you're the Rock. You have to make it happen by providing them value.
That's
So
that's
that's what
the
happened.
that's the biggest shift, right? Is you go on someone's website who's like an ex-athlete, and you can tell they have it by what does their website look like?
Yeah.
Is their website all about what they've done? Because if their website's all about what they've done, they don't have it, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, only The Rock and Tom Brady when he's done, if he wants to, or Peyton Manning, they can, yeah, look this, and then people just call,
Yeah.
But the rest of us who aren't those people, it's all about this value offer that we have for them, for the other person. This is what I will provide you. And
And there's a
go ahead.
there's a delicate balance with that too, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm so hyper focused on people thinking I'm a self-centered asshole, right? Like that's my biggest fear, is someone to dislike me because they think I'm arrogant or whatever. But the truth is, there is value in the Spaniard. They're not me, right? Not Charlie, but like this thing that is a Spaniard. There's value in it. There's people are curious about it. People want to learn from my experiences. So there's a delicate balance between not underutilizing your notoriety or fame or credibility and overutilizing it. So
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
me, if you go to my website, there's absolutely my face and my story.
Of course.
There's also a long list of stuff that I can do for you and its benefit to you.
Right.
So whereas someone who doesn't have a story or a background or an event in their life that they leverage, it would be total value on the customer. But it's been a long journey for me to talk to smarter people than I am with business to try to reach this balance of, for example, it's called The Spaniard Show. Right move, wrong move. I don't know, but that's where I'm going with it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
No, I hear you. No, and I'm not saying nothing, but sometimes you go to an ex-athlete and it's all them. It's
yeah.
like, look, yeah, it's all them, right? And you're like, yeah, dude, no, I had to Google you.
Yeah.
And if I have to Google you, you can't be all about you.
I remember talking to someone, and he was in the military and has a tremendous, when I say tremendous, like mind-blowing story of overcoming adversity. And I remember I was talking to him, and I was talking about marketing after the fact, and I was like, how do you blah, 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 get business, etc. He was like, my contact for speaking tab is abundantly overfilled, so I don't know. I can't answer you. I can't help you there. And I was like, oh man, that'll be the day where I just wake up and there's inquiries for business. But I have not reached that point. So you got to keep doing the work.
Yep. You got to keep doing the work. Man, I like to always kind of end with two questions that I know. I'm generally, this first question is interesting, but it might not be so interesting for us, because I think I kind of know, but why so don't focus it so much on me in this podcast, maybe, but why take the time out of your day to do a podcast that isn't Joe Rogan, that like isn't like, because most likely, Charlie, right? Like I can come on your podcast and you can come on my podcast. It's really not going to do too much for either one of us, correct? Like,
correct. Yep.
You don't have 10 million downloads a month, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah. So why take your time to do this?
So there's a couple reasons. That's a great question. For several reasons. One, because I communicate for a living, and any opportunity to communicate essentially live, I don't know, you might do some editing, but there's not really a lot of editing.
Nope.
Is practice. It makes me better at what I do, and that's communicate. No, very, very, very few people ever ask me, how many listeners do you have? right? So I could care less how many people are listening. If you care, if you're 100,000, 20,000 people care to listen to me, then that's an opportunity for me to positively impact someone, and I'm going to take it. And it from a business standpoint, like whether it helps a lot or a little, it's still helping move the needle forward and legitimately to help other people. And that's a thing I wouldn't have felt 5 years ago when I initially transitioned, because I wasn't thinking about other people. I was thinking about how can I build a business. But now it's like I feel the connection of positively impacting someone, because there's a lot of people out there who are hopeless and discouraged and lack fulfillment and are unhappy and depressed and potentially suicidal. And if you can be a voice, then that's like a huge opportunity and blessing. And 1,000,000% I'm going to do it. So it's a kind of a combination of those things.
I agree. If you can touch one person's life for one day, it's worth it.
And I mean, literally, I've never gotten a message from a student that says, I was going to kill myself today and I didn't because of you, right? It's never been that direct and black and white, but there are shades of that I've gotten time and time again that make me think, holy shit, this is important
That's
work.
coming. That's going to come.
I believe it.
I have gotten that message. And like, right, sometimes when you think you're about to be like, man, I'm not even fucking doing anything. This is like, because you have that thought too, right? Like,
yeah.
And then boom, you're like, oh shit. All right, keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's kind of
Keep
like
going.
when your parents would tell you when you were a kid, you never know who's watching you, like how you behave and how you act. You never know who could be watching. It's the same with a podcast. I mean, I see numbers, but I don't know who's a diehard and I don't know who's just accidentally clicked on it. But when I get that occasional piece of feedback that tells me how important and valuable it is, it's both
priceless.
fulfilling and yeah, it's priceless. And then it just makes you want to reach more and more people because it's so needed in today's world.
I agree. Last question. I believe everyone has a unique power, a gift, that they are meant to give to the world. Doesn't necessarily make you famous or rich or I don't know what it does, but it's your thing. What do you think your power is?
So I'll give you two answers here. I think a superpower I have is consistency. And I know this is not the direct answer of what you're saying, but I want to say it because people can realize like, oh shit, I didn't know that could be a superpower. Consistency/discipline is my greatest asset in terms of getting shit done. You can go to the top through a variety of factors, but consistency and discipline being one, like a huge driver of what you do. And I think that the answer to your question directly is probably honesty. I'm not like you said with fighting. Fighting embarrasses the shit out of you and it makes you want to crawl in a hole and never come out. And so because of that, I've just been able to develop a very honest approach to life, a very like sharing and vulnerable. I think that's an overused word, but it's true here. I just show it. I show it. And sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it sucks. But so many people are afraid to be honest with themselves and with other people. And getting your ass kicked time and time again on a big scale really helped me develop that ability to be honest.
It's amazing how it does that. Well, it sends you one of two ways, I think. It sends you lying to yourself for the rest of your life, or it sends you being brutally honest.
Yeah.
It's like the alcoholic father. You either never touch that shit or you become an alcoholic. There's no sometimes have it.
Yeah, 100% right. A good analogy, and it's so empowering to other people because everyone feels such pressure to uphold this. I got it all under control. I'm cool. I'm tough. I'm good. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh shit, that like tough guy, tough girl, tough person is being honest in a real way, not a showy or fake authentic way. They're like, oh shit, maybe I can be honest.
I like to say I'm the toughest coward you know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I have to.
I'm the toughest coward you know.
Yeah. To say, I recently started thinking I'm a perfect dichotomy of confidence and strength mixed with fear and insecurity. It's like, that's the way it is. But
my default is coward,
Yeah.
I have to get myself out of that.
Yeah.
When it comes,
you did it and you do it. And that's empowering for a lot of people who need that.
Yeah, man, Charlie, I would love to exchange information with you afterwards. I think we could really help each other and work
For
together.
sure.
But that's a wrap here. So tell everyone where they can reach you if they want to work with you, how they can do that, you know, and your Instagram, all that stuff. So give it
Yeah,
away.
for sure. First and foremost, for speaking, you know, my website is Charlie Spaniard, first name and nickname, charliespaniard.com. Has my speaking tab there. I do mostly schools, but also businesses. Social media is at Charlie Spaniard. And then my podcast, which is like, we're kind of talking about business and building a future. Right now, the majority of my income is from speaking. I would love to make it such that that is split into 2 ways or 3 ways, and my podcast being the driver of what I do. You know how hard it is to grow a podcast and monetize a podcast, but that's really my goal. And my podcast is about learning. It's about reading books and learning and interviewing people like yourself. And that's the Spaniard Show on the podcast apps.
So, all right, man. Appreciate it, Charlie. Guys, as always, don't go out in the world and try to be Charlie. Charlie has his own unique way, his own unique power of doing things. And don't go out in the world and try to be me. I have my unique way and how my life works. One of my biggest things that I hate is like trying to copy somebody, where you're like you saying that you have it figured out, you know, or either one of those things. Because I don't have it figured out. I have it figured out for like this human Elliot, and same thing with you.
Yep.
So, guys, as always, don't be Charlie, don't be Elliot. Go out in the world and find your own power.